With Isabella's work, I feel like she's doing such amazing work that maybe I can help her in some way to get her work recognized even more, or more people to see the papers that she's going to be, well, she's published some already, which is the first of its kind. And I think,
We
maybe
must put the
there's,
link on the show notes to her
oh, I
papers. You
will.
sent it
Yeah.
to me, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, I feel like she's an amazing scientist. She's an incredible woman, and she's a really special human being in terms of her own empathy and
The
thoughtfulness and
opposite.
kindness. She's the opposite, but she's a very special person. And, I think the work that she's doing is pioneering, and it could change the way that cancer is treated and the way that it goes forward. And I feel like maybe this in Mel's legacy is what might happen, is that we can work with her and help her get her work recognized even more, is how I feel. So I feel like I will throw myself at that as well.
It's so interesting how you naturally, instinctively are finding the ways of being that are naturally supportive, in that you're finding meaning from Mel's death in the ketogenic research and the metabolic research. And I've heard quite a lot about that. I listened to a Wrong and Chatterjee podcast with the man who does the research too about diet, and it was very interesting, very convincing, very persuasive. But also that that even though you feel like, or you have a huge part of you has died, in that Mel has died, you're choosing life. You're choosing to have life in your life and to go for finding joy, finding glimmers, finding people, finding connection, movement in your body, dancing, which is the thing that will enable you to survive and actually live till you get to the end. And not, some people, they live, but there's no life in their life. Whereas you want to live and have life in your life whilst you
Yeah.
still grieve and miss Mel.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, when you say it like that, I suppose that's absolutely true. I feel like I've always been somebody that kind of, had a lot of energy, used to apparently exhaust all my school friends, according to my mum, because they couldn't keep up with my energy. So I have to have an outlet for that energy. But yeah, I do feel like the only way to go forward now is to get out of bed every day, make sure I, put some makeup on and try and be positive about putting clothes on, putting some makeup on, go and look how you would try to look your best for the day, and
Which
go
you
and
do.
attack it with, well, thank you. I just feel like, I don't want to sink and just absolutely fall apart as a crushed person, even though sometimes inside I feel like that. I feel like I need to just keep going forward and making the most of what is out there. And I do have some wonderful, wonderful friends, and they have really kept me going. I don't know what I would have done without them. And obviously, my children have been absolutely incredible as well. And I sometimes forget that even though I'm grieving, I need to keep reminding myself that they are too, that they've lost their dad. And, even though Mel was my partner, my life partner, he was their dad. So I have to keep reminding myself that they're also suffering as much, and we talk together as a family. But I think we're all trying to bolster each other and find lots of happy memories. We talk about lots of things. We don't not want to talk about him. And so whenever, yeah, I'm sure you've heard about this, but when friends come to the door or they come round, a lot of people, if you meet, people are scared to talk about it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm never afraid to talk about Mel.
No,
I
you
never
want
know
to
when I'm
talk
going to
about
burst
him.
into tears, but I'm happy
Mm.
to talk about him, because I just think that would be awful if I just felt or people felt too scared that they couldn't bring up his name. So I tend to bring up his name all the time, and so make it
Lovely.
easier for people. And also, I don't want to not talk about him.
No, bringing his memory alive and having
Yeah,
ways of connecting to him, although he's died, is incredibly important. And I can hear that you really recognize that although your relationship was different to Mal, the love your kids had for him is huge, and that they're grieving too. But it sounds like you have, with Melly, you made a family that pulls together when terrible things happen. And a lot of families pull apart. And so that is something that you and he have created together, which is something I hope you really recognise and are really proud of.
yes, I think so. I think you're spot on. I think that as a family, we were always close, but it's definitely brought us even closer. It feels like we're this really tight little ball that needs each other, and we just want to spend more time together and do family things together. And so, yeah, it's a really important support network, isn't it, for each other, I think. So I can't quite imagine without all of our kids, the kids and us all together. I don't know quite how we would have survived it, actually, to be honest. If we were a dysfunctional family, I think that would be very, very hard. So it's made us even closer than we were before.
And that love and connection together. And, children learn how to manage by what you model as parents. So you've modeled having hope, making meaning, being positive, doing the things to have life in your life. Allow yourself to feel the pain, express the pain, remember Mal. So it feels so psychologically painful and hard, but also natural and holistic and loving. And it gives me a lot of hope for all of you. I can see that you are managing it, if that's the right word. I'm not sure if that's the right
Yeah.
word. Living with it, accommodating it.
Yeah, I think, well, I hope so. One thing we haven't done is, I mentioned it earlier, but we haven't picked up his ashes yet. And it's just one of those things. I don't know what other people say when they're grieving or whatever, but it's just this horrific thought of Mel being in an urn. And I just, at the moment, none of us can face picking them up. But then we started having a conversation about it the other day and saying he would be joking about it, about the fact that he's in an urn somewhere and that, for goodness sake, come and pick me up and stick me somewhere, or I don't know. I think he'd find it all quite amusing, actually, and he would make us laugh, and he would have found a funny way of looking at it. And at some point we do need to just get over this hurdle of this awful thought that he's in an urn somewhere. I just can't actually get my head around it. I don't know what other people say. Some people wear some of the ashes around their neck in a locket or something, and I can't even imagine doing that, because it just feels like, I don't know, everyone's different, aren't they? But I can't bear the thought of him like that.
No.
I don't want to visualize him as ashes. And so
No.
I'm finding it very hard to even contemplate picking up this urn at some point. But I know it's gone on for quite a long time, and maybe it's really unfair to leave him down at the undertaker's, and we should go and sort it out. But yes, I have no idea what other people say about it, or whether other people have left it as long as I have. I have no idea.
I mean, I can really get that, given the suddenness and the unexpectedness of his death, and then the funeral that you had to have, in some ways, collecting his ashes and what you're going to do, making decisions about what you're going to do with the ashes, is the last kind of physical act that you're going to do in relation to his physical body. And so there isn't a right or a wrong. Everyone does it in their own time. There are people who've left ashes for 18 months, 2 years before they've collected them. So my kind of, as a way to end, if this is a way to end, is that to give yourself compassion and space and time to do it when you're ready, because this is something that you can choose. And so do it in what feels like the right time, when you can, and don't put yourself under pressure. And there may be a point where you feel like, I've just got to go and do it, and that will emerge. And then together as a family, you can decide what you do with the ashes. And it could be that you have them at home for a long time before you do anything with them, or just keep them at home.
Yeah, it's interesting here, because as I said before at the start, I never had any concept of any of this, and suddenly having to face all these decisions, and it's just awful.
It's awful.
But at one point, because Mel was a sailor, the best man at our wedding, he was saying, oh, what about we scatter them in the sea? And I thought, oh, that sounds quite nice. I think Mel would have liked that. But then he loved Richmond parks. And then we thought, well, maybe we go to the parks. I know you're allowed to do that if you organise it with them. And then the kids were saying, what about a bit here and a bit there and a bit somewhere else? And I was like, oh,
but you can do that. I mean,
sure
you may not like the idea of it, but it doesn't have to be all of the ashes in one place.
No, but then I thought, what a weird concept that is. You're splitting it all up and in different places. And I thought, I don't know if I like the idea of that. So, all of it is to be decided, but all awful. It's grim. But I know that Mel would have laughed about it and found something highly amusing to entertain us all with ideas about it.
But I would listen to that and listen to yourself and let yourself have one thought, have another thought, change your mind, make up your mind, feel Mel with you, advising you, and then your decision will emerge. And it is painful, extremely painful, because it is the absolute ultimate reality when you pick up his ashes, that you know in a way that you can't not know that he's died.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. I just know I've got to pick up the phone and call them at some point and go down there. And then I'm already visualizing the transportation of that. Whereas, and it reminds me of when Mel and I first had our first baby, Amber, and being so careful the way we drove the car at about 10 miles an hour with her in the sort of baby seat at the back of the car and thinking this was our first baby. And it has this vision of, oh my goodness, you're going and picking up his ashes, and how on earth do you transport them? And it's just a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole thing. But I know I do need to get over that at some point.
And talk to them. Maybe the first step is finding out what you can do, because it feels like the ignorance also brings more fear. So if you
Yes.
ring the funeral directors or wherever he is and find out, what do people do? How do you transport the ashes? What's a way to protect them? Get information, because that will help you make your decision.
Yeah, I know. It's all just, I can't even believe we're having to,
This
honestly,
conversation.
It's like talking about somebody else having this conversation. I can't even believe it's real. Do you know what I mean? It's
No, it's
just bizarre.
surreal. It's surreal.
It really is.